Ezreal. Ezreal jerked awake at the sound of his name, looking for who had called him, mentally preparing an excuse for having fallen asleep on duty. He expected a commander or a sergeant ready to beat the snot out of him. Snow covered the trench, abandoned except for one unarmed human figure. His mind went into overdrive and he groped blindly for his weapon. "There's no need for that anymore," the human said. Ezreal stopped, abruptly, asking, "How do you know my name?" The human smiled sadly and sat against the trench wall. He looked up at the sky for a moment and then dug into his pockets, retrieving a cigarette and a lighter. "This is going to be difficult to understand," he said, before igniting the cigarette. "Turn around." Ezreal turned to look behind himself, and found his own still form laying in the trench covered with a thin coating of snow. "A dream?" Ezreal asked rhetorically. "Yes and no," the human replied, exhaling a long stream of smoke. "Your line charged about 7 hours ago. I already collected all of them." "You? The Harvester of Souls?" Ezreal said with a chuckle. "The Harvester is a Vakal." The human let out another long exhalation of smoke and said, "Humans have a similar belief, the Grim Reaper, as we call it. The problem is, neither of our species has killed anything but our own, until now." Ezreal considered what the human had said. It was Vakal belief that fallen warriors were sent to retrieve those who were slain, and escorted them to the afterlife. "Why not one of my comrades, then?" Ezreal asked. "I don't make the rules," the human began, "but it turns out the one who kills has to retrieve you as well." "One human killed my entire regiment?" Ezreal asked in shock. "I was manning a pulse laser," the human replied. "Then how are you dead?" Ezreal challenged. "I'm not yet," the human answered. "My unit is doing everything they can to save me right now." "If you're not dead, then why are you here?" Ezreal asked. The human smiled a little. "I'm not going to make it, but you have a choice. Unlike me, you have until my cigarette is finished to wake up before you freeze to death." "And what happens to you?" Ezreal questioned. "I already collected all of your compatriots," the human said sadly, "so I have to stay here until someone comes for me." "How long?" Ezreal asked. "As long as it takes," the human replied. "You have a chance. Wake up, and you'll live." "All I have to do is wake up?" Ezreal asked in disbelief. "Simple as that," the human said, putting out the cigarette. "You have to choose now, however. Time's almost up." Ezreal looked back over his snow-covered body. "And you have to wait until someone comes for you?" he asked. "Yeah. Don't worry about me, though. You need to choose now," the human said. "I don't want to be alone," Ezreal said finally. Brian. Brian woke up to a Vakal standing over him. "I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're dead," Ezreal said. "I've come to get you." "Why?" Brian asked. "You took a round to the head," Ezreal replied. "So you came to get me?" Brian asked. "I didn't want to be alone," Ezreal said. "I figured we could go together."